Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, and today I will be sleeving cards and just chatting in general. I will be sleeving shiny new hololive Weiss Schwarz Deck, and an expansion I got for Anima. This is not the box that came in. I took a regular deck box and glued the front and back of the old game box to it. Oh, and it's kind of a little sneak preview for a future chatting stream I'm going to do. I'm going to be doing a building stream in the future of this model. I love Xenosaga. I'm going to talk lots about it during that stream, or well, video. But for now, let's focus on the task at hand. For me, card sleeves are important to the longevity of keeping a game going for a long time. I'm just kind of shocked that some people see their games as so disposable that they don't want to invest in card sleeves. At the same time, investment in card sleeves can sometimes turn me off of wanting to get a game in the first place. I don't have Gloomhaven. I'm sure it's a great little fantasy adventure combat game, but I looked at the number of cards it's got. I'm not going to buy that many card sleeves for one game. I've already bought enough card sleeves for Horizon Zero Dawn and StarCraft and Heart of Crown and Wahaha and pretty much every other game I have that requires a crap load of card sleeves. So there's the rulebook for Beyond Good and Evil. I have the base game as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the revised edition of the base game, so it's going to be kind of noticeable when the cards are mixed up. I made a point to print out little reminder sheets for this game. Anima is an interesting game. It's sadly not going to be on my list of Pillar Loves games features. Because I'm limiting the list to 16, and after Endeavor, which is currently uploaded as of this chatting video, there's going to be Heart of Crown, Runebound 2nd Edition, Revolution, and StarCraft. The Revolution video is already done. I just have to do StarCraft and then upload all 4 of those. I'm thinking about doing a sort of honorable mentions list of some games that I like, but I didn't have time to put on the list, and I'm not going to be part of the tier list project. So as you can see, this is the not realized edition. So all the cards are black border. I think the black border looks way cooler, I think. Then we have Beyond Good and Evil, which adds more locations and characters and encounters. Its own set of missions. The thing with playing one of the expansions for Anima is having to use a different mission set. This is a game I've made a point to upgrade with quite a bit of stuff. Mainly more more dice, ways to keep track of turn order and recruiting and other things, especially keeping track of speed and strength. Those little upgrades are what keep me sane. They do a lot of crazy stuff in these games. It's like, really? What were you thinking? You know? And I'm left hoping for the best. That we can come up with an alternative that's not too terribly expensive. Like, I bought 2 things of dice for this game. I'm usually buying like 1 thing of dice for games like Warcraft and Silverton, Thunder's Edge. Silverton's one that will probably be featured on the honorable mentions because, hey, it's a train game set in the state that I actually like living in. Colorado's been a comparatively nicer place than Washington State, where I spent the first section of my life. But yeah, in Anima, there's all these little locations you can travel to and encounter stuff and then get rewards. It's a fun little fantasy adventure. The way I imagine it, it's if Munchkin actually took itself seriously, but was also a lot more interesting as a result. I've used to own Munchkin, and it's a very random game that I would only play if the alternative was Monopoly. I refuse to ever play Monopoly ever again. And there's a lot more games I would rather play in general. I like having choices. I like being able to choose my destiny. When there's too much randomness, it becomes a problem, I think. I want to have my decisions actually matter. So a game with all these options and only like 2 of them are worth doing is very wasteful. I'm not a fan of wasteful design. I'm not a fan of wasteful anything. If you get something, make the most of it. If you're not going to make the most of something, start looking at what else you could do with it. Because in the grand idea of what you should do with your life, figure out your purpose before you start getting things. So that the things you do get are the things that matter the most to you. Board games matter a lot to me, but I'm a very curious person. So I get very curious about games, and then sometimes find myself putting those games up for auction towards getting different games down the line. The thing about the game store auction is credit is locked into the game store itself. I'm sure I could talk reasonably with the person in charge about getting credit out, but at a cost of not getting the whole thing. And I think at this point, I don't plan on selling any of the games that I have. I'll be holding on to all of them Even if it's a game I'm probably not going to see at the table at all. Unfortunately, there's some games that I have, and I really don't think I'm going to get around to playing with other people in general. I'm already not really playing with. Is this in? Yeah, slightly more flexible. You know, I'm already taking a break from the game store. I know I should go back at some point, but I'm just trying to deal with all this. And honestly, I'm still hoping to find people beyond beyond the game store that maybe I could resonate with, become friends, and do stuff other than games. Games are fun, but sometimes I want to try something else. This YouTube plan of mine is starting to wind down, I think. The I Love Games series is going to be done soon. I'm going to try this little animation project. So one of the neat little things with the whole movie creator stuff is I can set an image, have that image be shown for a duration of time, and then move on to the next image. So I can create a sort of animated work. And I'm going to be creating a short that I can have on my home screen of just my little, head and mouth movements, and me saying some stuff. If I remember correctly, this is the image used on the revised edition of Anima. That's how you know. That's what to look for. I was annoyed that the one I got off of Amazon, they used that picture to say it, to show that this is, the game that was, and instead of being the revised edition, it was the old one, which is unfortunate. I'm starting to step back from ordering stuff online. I have one thing coming, hopefully soon, and then there's one of the merchandise I ordered from Geek Jack for hololive. I was very, very lucky to be in a position where I could afford it at that time, and I've been very, very patient in waiting for it to arrive. If you hear any noise in the background that appears to be someone else, it is my nephew who refuses to shut up, and I really, really need to just not do this when he's here, because it just wants to ruin everything and is entertained by others suffering because of him. Honestly, it's part of why I have a hard time wanting to continue doing this. But I gotta be more patient. I gotta time things out a little bit better. I didn't want to wail on this because this was burning in my head and I gotta deal with it. So what else is going on? I want to try doing an actual stream at some point. I tried before, it didn't work out. I want to look at possibly featuring my Minecraft world as part of a stream. Not very impressive, but you know, I just, in this time period of being locked out of the internet, the fact that I can still play Minecraft offline has been very good for my sanity. And I've been building up this village, working on a mine, working on my farm, getting livestock together. At some point, work my way back to the nether. What is about the nether that's just, it's interesting to check out, but at the same time, the sheer lethality and the risk of being there is, you know, the problem. Sorry for that. So, I was talking about Minecraft. Something I would like to do is play with other, you know, other people. Probably won't be playing with any streamers or anything, but it would be nice to find someone else in this town, be open to let me play on the same server as them, and join them for a game. If you're wondering why I have some of these cards turned down, it's like, this is the set where they got a little bit crazy on some of the cards in terms of revealingness, and really don't need YouTube coming down my neck for having that. But yeah, otherwise the art in this game is pretty nice. Not exactly anime-ish, but close. This is coming from RPG, tabletop RPG, Anima Beyond Fantasy. I have a couple books and the GM screen for it. I have a lot of RPG stuff, but funny, I don't have D&D in there. I used to have 3.5 way back when. Either 3 or 3.5. I forget exactly. But it's like everyone had it, so it's like, do I really need to have the game that everyone else has? I want to go after stuff that's different. So I have Anima. I have Made RPG, which seems funny as hell. I have Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk Red. I have Genesis with a Y. And I have Traveler, which I picked up pretty recently. In the similar vein of collaborative storytelling, but not exactly role-playing, it's its own little thing, I have Fiasco. I don't really get to play RPGs, tabletop RPGs with others all that often. I remember playing D&D, I think, once or twice. Played Vampire a couple times. Call of Cthulhu once. Or one game, 2 sessions. Let's see. 316 Carnage Amongst the Stars, I played a couple times. One was for an RPG day, and I was the sergeant, and I was a sergeant with a bad habit of swearing. I like swearing, but I try to restrain myself most of the time. Sometimes anger gets to me, and I just gotta let fly, you know. But my inspiration for that sergeant was General Patton. I've watched the movie. I think I read a speech of his in a book one time. Although making my sergeant very sweary is kind of a shallow nod to that, I guess. Here's one of the cool things from the expansion. Legendary characters. I think you have to have like 3 normal characters before you can acquire a legendary one. And they've got their own super powerful abilities. They continue the tradition in the 3rd Anima card game, Twilight of the Gods. Debating whether or not I want to go looking for that one. I was very lucky to find this one. It was shown at a store of all sorts of things as used, and $10. Opening it up, the cards were not opened at all. It was basically as good as new. So that worked out very well for my benefit, because now I have a brand new game for roughly $10 plus sales tax. And it is a game that I do like. So, characters, advantage cards, locations, encounters, and then the main missions, the final missions. So, a little run through of this game. You'll start the game with the character. On your turn, there will be an initiative check. Player with the high speed is going to go first. You can either rest, try to build up your speed in combat for next turn, or go to a location. First, you have to deal with any preliminary encounters. As long as they're equal to or less than the level of where you're going to, you have to fight them. If they're higher, then you discard them. But then you end up in your location. You might deal with other players there. You'll have to roll to see what you encounter. If you do got any encounters that come off the deck, and they have to be equal to or less than the level of the area. And if you get through it, you get one of the rewards. There's recruiting, where you get another character. You cannot recruit in the same location 2 turns in a row. There's advantage cards, usually equal to the level of the area. And then the area itself has something special. Like, this one is Grand Tournament, the mission. Normally, players fighting each other is an option. This one makes it mandatory. And then ultimately your goal is to build up to accomplish the missions. You'll have 2 at the start. Complete 1 and you can open up a path to the final mission. Probably want to complete the other one so you have the bonus. Complete the final mission to win the game. That's Anima. I like this game because it is a fantasy adventure Sometimes you just don't have the space for inbound, and sometimes you want something a little more specific than culture venture. So these games are probably going to end up being played separately, as the card sleeves are different. Tempted to get some more sleeves to re-sleeve this one completely, and that would make it a little more closer to compatible. With the fact is the difference in the border colors is going to be hard to reconcile. I'll be figuring out a solution to that eventually, but for now we've accomplished one set of card sleeving. I mean, so I call that a win. What else? What else? Yeah. It's always interesting to see the different things they try to do with games and stuff. There's one thing I'm not entirely sold on right now, and that's app-driven games. You know, I'm sure they mean well. An app can do things that others can't really do. But as someone who's had to deal with being limited by technology, especially with being without internet, I find a reliance on technology to be a risk not necessarily worth taking too often. Think back on one game that did decently well without having to use an app. Gears of War. It's kind of amazing how many board games based on video games there are. And that one is one of the ones that's actually pretty good. You'll draw 2 cards. If you are at under your limit, you'll play 1. During other actions, you have cards that you can use as reactions for better defense, counterattacks, or moving with your friends so you don't get left behind. And that game had a card-driven enemy system that checked for certain factors and proceeded accordingly. If you are very, very lucky to find Gears of War, do not let it slip away. Get it and treasure it and play the living crap out of it. Because Gears of War, the board game, is one of the finest board games based on a video game I've ever played. And then there's the opposite. There are video games based on board games. I already have one for the Witcher adventure game, which has been sadly... I mean, it plays decently. Unfortunately, they botched one of the potions for Geralt. So it's basically a copy of the other potion that he has. But other than that, it's a nice game. There's also the game that I've been kind of messing with lately because I wanted to play games more than do anything productive sometimes. And that is Advanced Civilization. Advanced Civilization is already a long-ass game. Thankfully, for the computer game version, it has a save feature, which is always appreciated. Try to show these off a little bit better. But I've been messing with that one. In Advanced Civilization, what you're trying to do is build your empire, your civilization. You get a token to start out with. Every round at the start, your token, your locations with 1 token get 1 more token. Your locations with 2 or more tokens get 2 tokens. At the end of movement, after combats are resolved and cities are built, any tokens in excess of the population limits of those areas are lost. What you're trying to do during the movement step is first expand your borders so you have more space to work with. Secondly, gather your tokens together at city locations to build cities for only 6 tokens, or gather in like a wilderness type of area. This is messed up. Yeah, with 12 tokens to build a city as well. There's some strategy in where you want to build. Areas that are critical for moving your units through should be kept open. Areas with high population value you want to keep open. Those are your bread baskets. Those are where you can keep people to support your cities. In order to support cities, you need 2 tokens per city. Events going horribly wrong can require more, but in general, you want to have enough people to support those cities and then go out and fight to protect your cities from attack, or go shut down other people's cities. If it takes 6 tokens to build a city, it's going to take about 7, 8 more to eliminate another player's city. When you do that, you'll get a card from their hand of trade cards. You'll get up to 3 of your tokens moved from your stock to your treasury as treasure. Starting with future turns, after you built cities, you'll get 2 of your tokens per city moved from your stock to your treasury. If you can't do it, there's a tax shield, and cities get taken over by opponents. And then during the trade step, you get 1 trade card per city. You get trade cards in a way that, so trade cards have values from like 1 to 9. So if you have like 3 cities, for example, you'll get a 1 value, 2 value, and 3 value. The thing is, the decks are random. They have 2 types of goods, and starting with the value 2 cities, calamities, some of which can be traded, others cannot. What you're trying to do is trade for as close to complete sets as possible. It's very rare that you get all the cards, but if you get most of them, you're in good shape. The way trade values work is the trade value of the card itself multiplied by the square of the number of cards you have. So let's say you have value 1. It's worth 1. 2 of them are worth the total of 4. 3 is worth a total of 9. 4 is worth a total of 16. 5 is worth a total of 25. So ultimately, when you're trading with others, you're trying to get cards that are worth more value to you because you have more of them by ditching the cards you have a few of that they would want. And then after the trading is done, the calamities start getting called out, starting with the lowest value to the highest value. If a name is called out, you reveal it from your hand, you resolve the effect. Sometimes there's collateral damage, and that others can be affected. If someone is trading the calamity, it's a very good chance that they are left unaffected. Once all that's done, players can spend their trade cards on tools. Tools come in several different classifications, sometimes 1, sometimes 2. There's the general crafts, sciences, art, politics, and religion. And then the cards that you purchase on one round start providing bonuses for you on the next round during the actual game itself, and for when you go to buy tools in the future. They'll provide bonuses based on their type, and some specifically affect certain cards. What you're trying to aim for is having a high number of points worth of tools in order to get past the threshold at the end of the archaeological succession table, which is the track everyone's moving along during the course of the game. So, after everyone's bought their tools, everyone moves one step along the archaeological succession table, or AST for short. It's a long name. When you get to a certain point, you'll have to have met certain requirements to continue proceeding, like having cities, having tools. As you get later into the game, you're going to need a lot more cities, and its tools become very important. It is possible to stall by not meeting the requirement, but even worse is the risk of backsliding. If at any time during the step when the table is checked to see if you move ahead or not, you have 0 cities, you step back 1. And that can be very devastating. You do not want to be in the position of being a step behind, because catching up becomes near impossible. But at some point, someone will reach the end of the AST, and that will be the end of the game. Players will have scored points based on how many steps they've taken along the AST. I believe that it's 100 per. The total points value of tools in their possession, regardless of any discounts. The value of trade goods still in your hand. The value of your treasury. Oh yeah, that's alright. Treasury can be spent on your tools and your ships. Depending on which faction you're playing, you're going to need to master the ship game like a boss, or you will fail horribly. If you are playing as Crete, ye old gods help you. But AST, tools, trade, treasury, and cities, I believe, are worth 50 points each. Yeah. All that combined is your final score, at which point the highest score wins the game. Advanced Civ is a very long game. I don't have a copy of it. It is horribly expensive to get a copy these days. And also there's the new version of it called Mega Civ. Mega Civilization, which was the Kickstarter version, I believe. And it's really freaking nice. There's also the public reprint of it in the form of Western empires and Eastern empires, which are bought separately and can be played together, or you can play one or the other. Odds are you're probably going with Western empires if you don't plan on playing the whole thing altogether. Eastern empires, only 75% of the map is usable. There's 1/4 of the map that's just pure water. That's the southeast coast of Asia. I don't think Australia is open for people to go explore, sadly. There's an idea for a game. Ancient Australia. That'd be quite the thing. Weiss Schwarz. Very interesting idea for a game. What is it? Rule sheet as of April 29th, 2002. Yeah, this is a game I'm going to have to learn and find people to play with. Or I can just, just have the cards to enjoy looking at whenever. My angel. So I used to play a lot of different card games in my history. Magic the Gathering is the first, obviously. It's very, very rare that MTG is not the first for people, but it happens. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Surprisingly, Legend of the Five Rings. My first ever deck for that was like a Phoenix deck. I think I still have this Phoenix card. The Phoenix Clan card with an actual Phoenix called Ho-Ho. Somewhere. I like to keep random ass cards sometimes up on my wall over here is Yogg-Sothoth from Hecatomb, a grim, dark card game of reaping souls and ending the world. Interesting game with plastic cards that sometimes came in a booster broken on the corner because they weren't. And then, so yeah, Magic, Digimon, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Legend of the Five Rings, well, 5R for short. Hecatomb, Lord of the Rings, which was, it had its initial versions, which were fun, which were interesting, and then it came out with like this kind of revised system, but it's still pretty good. What else? Babylon 5, although that's just a very brief thing, because, you know, a lot of people are playing it for a little while. I think they're trying to bring it back after it gone under. Dot Hack Enemy. First ever tournament I played. I won the t-shirt. That was the game that got me into the video games, and I am forever a fan of Dot Hack Sign and the first 4 games. Dot Hack Sign is an anime. It's one of the early anime of the time period of me getting into buying my own anime series. Dot Hack Sign, Noir, Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, and Zero Experiments Lane were my main core of anime that have helped shape me. But I digress. What else? So there's like, oh yeah, there's a living card game system. Warhammer 40k Conquest. Dragon Ball Z, both the early version and the redone version. What else? Yeah, I think that was it for card games. I eventually got to the point where I was like, okay, trying to keep up with tournament stuff is a pain in the butt. And also with MTG, Planeswalkers. I think Planeswalkers are what really killed it for me. I think the concept just I think I'd been coming back. I got back into Magic around the time Zendikar was coming out, and when World of Wake released Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's, I think, part of what set the gears in motion for me to start winding down. I think I tried to stick through with the next couple blocks after that, but then it was just no more. Yeah, card games are interesting. Way to get people to come together, you know, have fun by doing custom stuff. Oh yeah, Keyforge. So, Keyforge is, you know, the unique game line from, part of the unique game line from Fantasy Flight, alongside Discover Lands Unknown. That one's, I haven't played it yet, but every one of those games is supposed to be unique. But Keyforge was interesting because your deck was one of a kind. Developed by an algorithm programmed by the people, you know. And as of the last time I've checked in, the algorithm has been declared broken, and they have to rebuild it from the ground up. And I don't know if anyone at the game store still plays Keyforge. I think the big games now are Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Flesh and Blood. I have not played Flesh and Blood yet. I don't think I'm going to. But the fact that there's this game that kind of came out of nowhere and proceeded to make its space and say, come and take it, Magic. Come and take it, other games. We are here, we're going to stay. Is pretty cool. But the idea of a game like this, you know, of all sorts of anime series and adding in hololive and all that. It seems like a really cool idea. I like going through the rules a little bit. It's like, okay, I can kind of get behind the system. I may have to see it in action to fully get behind it. But I think this is a game, if I can find people to play it, I will. Pretty sure it'll be a game that I love. But that is it for card sleeving. We are done. It's been fun being here. Like I said, in the future, I want to do a chatting stream where I build Robot Waifu. But until next time, it's been Pillar Nexus. It's been fun. See you later.